Thank you for coming. Hot summer day, all two of you. It's actually nice in this surf. I feel more relaxed. It's like, oh, good. You know, there's no angry people debating everything. Oh, there is. See, I can't do those jokes when everyone's here.
I didn't do the reading this time. Very cool.
So welcome. Step into the 2 hours of that special you. Yeah? And I want to ask you really, if you got a chance to develop one big habit in this lifetime, if you got to develop one big state of mind which flops into, if what we're talking about is true, that there are past and future lives, and you got to develop one big quality that will flop into the next life, that the next creature with the mind stream that you now have seemingly have control over got it as a present, as a child, began to look at the world that way, what would it be? Yeah? And that's a hint about what to step into while you're here. So what is that? Some of us came into this world with certain attitudes already. We're different to your mum and your sister and your brother. And we're saying they come from something before that. You know, some Hector bastard made all the habits that this Hector has to deal with, the good ones and the bad ones. I'm creating some really naughty habits for the next one. But the next one's like, really? You know, and I don't know if they're great for them. They're pretty good for me. But you know what I'm saying? And out of all the possible things I could habituate, why choose those ones? And so that the 2 hours, the way to look at the world, and therefore the way you experience the world, therefore the way you create your world, your mandala, your space, is started here, in this habitual stepping into the way you look at your world. You challenge your assumptions about things that are normal. I'm just that way. Or I can't do anything about anger. And so understanding that things don't have a nature of their own means they're available to have whatever nature you generate, and whatever nature is being experienced is something already generated. But that thing doesn't have a nature from its own side. You're just forced to see it that way from something you did before it. So if you begin to do different things now, later you'll be forced to experience that potential into something magnificent. And this is where you do the seeing. So I hope you step into the nicest you, whatever that is.
Sashi Ukir Jishir Metotam Vira Linshir Inde Himpadi Sange Shindu Mite Biwardi Drogun Namda Shinla Chuparsho Sange Chidam Soki Choknamwa Janchu Bardu Dagni Gyapsushi Daki Junyen Gipet Sonamki Rola Benchir Sange Drupasho Sange Chidam Soki Choknamna Janchu Bardu Dagni Gyapsuchi Daki Junyen Gipet Sonamki Rola Benchir Sange Drupasho Sange Chidam Soki Choknamna Janchu Bardu Dagni Gyapsuchi Daki Junyen Gipet Sonamki Rola Penchir Sange Trupasho.
So that last bit is saying we take refuge. This philosophy says we take refuge. We go for shelter. We feel secure in a true knowledge, in a truth. A truth is that there is no fixed thing about anything. My mind is equal. The emptiness of my mind is equal to that of the Buddhist mind. And because mind is empty of having inherent existence, it can be an all-knowing thing. That's Sema-Kyepa. So it's Sema-Kyepa. And then the knowledge that you can get to a point where you can get access to ultimate knowledge of everything. Dharma, the ultimate thing, the biggest thing, the all-encompassing thing, the code of the matrix. We take refuge in that. Every single thing, object, existence, thought, feeling, emotion, every instant of thing does not have a nature from its own side. If it did, it must be fixed, and it's not. Things are changing. So we take refuge in that, and then we take refuge in those beings that understand that, see that, experience that, perceive that, can communicate that as a truth. And there's something in that about those three things. That's how can they help you? Why would you take refuge? We did a whole course on it. With that knowledge, understanding, let's investigate reality. So I invite you to take refuge. Say, where in these words is what I'm hearing, the karma right me in a certain way. And I take refuge that if it's crappy, because I'm sure I don't articulate things properly and fully, you see the potential in it. It's like, okay, where's that come from? And could I see it differently? Is there a hidden something in there that I didn't see? And one of the beautiful things about the practice, it's painful because it's ripping you away from a habitual way of doing something, but as it's painful, it is also blissful. Because as the ignorance rips away, which doesn't feel good, you get insight into something. You go, wow, I had no idea that was continuously and always available to me, and I was just never aware of it. And so you step into another state of awareness about exactly the same life, and you get excited. For me, the experience has been, I don't understand this at all, rejection. I can't get it out of my mind because it makes some sense that the old way of thinking doesn't fit. And then the ripping away at the old habits to put that state of mind into practice, because you can't not do it if that's the way you see the world now. And then you think, well, it's now normal, I'm still suffering, life's still crappy, but now I see it differently and I can't even go back to ignorance. That's a pain in the ass. And then something happens if you maintain practice. The water bowls are magnificent for this experience. And then you get an insight into this whole thing and this, and you go, wow, I've just entered another way of looking at exactly the same experience. It was always there, and that gives you strength to continue. That's the path. It rips, hurts, normalizes, rips, hurts, normalizes. But it's beautiful. For me, it's beautiful. I hope you get to have the same experience. So today, we've got a lot of words on the board. Let's see if I prepared. Any questions from the last class? Oh, good. what I'm going to do today is we're going to do a quick meditation first. I'm just checking to see what the homework is of the meditation.
To meditate on the trees.
On the 6. Meditate on the 6. Yeah. Oh no, that was last. This week. I want to give you this week's meditation. So I'll give you a summary of this week's meditation. Okay. So take a nice seated position, relaxed. We're going to have a little removing from the physical stimuli and going to experience as best as you can the experience of being. Yeah? So the idea here is that your base is firm, that your buttocks is a little bit higher than your knees if possible. The essence though is that your backbone is nicely straight, like coin stacked on coin, but being pulled up by a string, so you're almost free floating, something holding up the crown of your head. There's an energy about it that rises whilst you've got gravity dropping. So you feel this play between an upward energy and a downward energy in your body. Do one final scan and relax any muscle from your feet to your thighs, your hips, your torso. Tuck in your stomach just a tiny bit to support your lower back. That frees up your spine as well. Allow your lips to do a tiny smile, which should relax the muscles. And relax your muscles of your brow, your shoulders, your neck, your eyelids. And just breathe. Begin to focus your mind on the sensation of the breath as it enters and exits your nostrils. See if you can trick your mind into thinking this is the first time you've ever experienced breathing. And you're hyper aware of the sensation. And if your mind wanders for a little bit, don't resist it too much. Just observe it and return it back to the sensation of the breath. But this time I'd like you to imagine like a wall that prevents all future thoughts from occurring. This invisible wall that you might imagine at the front of your head, shutting down all future thoughts, and another one coming down behind you that shuts down all past thoughts of the past. So you are just left right now, right here, with your breath, and nothing else matters. Now I'd like you to invite your teacher in front of you. As soon as you think of them, they appear as solid as you can make them, as vibrant and crisp as you can make them. Not just their physical or visual form, but feel the sensation of them being present. It's just you and them. See if you can feel a sense of gratitude for them being with you. Think of their highest quality and offer them something of beauty. something born from your heart. See if you can accept an unconditional love that flows from them to you. And now, totally trusting them, allow your mind to step into the last moment where you created some negativity in your mind. Maybe you were unwise, you were angry at somebody, you behaved recklessly. Essentially, you created the conditions for a negative state of mind. Allow yourself to return just to that moment. It's isolated from everything else. And you can see the triggers that allowed you to step into that negativity. And I'd like you to, in front of your teacher, to feel some kind of regret for allowing that moment to emerge and to stay in that moment. But it's not a bad thing. It's an awareness, a learning, a lesson. And with them you can see that you could stop that if you just wish that you could stop it next time by learning from the hurt that it produced last time. So step into that. See how that behavior, if allowed to run rampant in your mind, could destroy any peace in your world. And that's the regret. A sincere wish to not have that experience emerge in your mind or the mind of others. So you make a commitment to yourself to avoid the next opportunity where that might arise. And see that you keep to it. And just that awareness and that promise to yourself, next to your teacher, you feel cleaned somewhat of the impacts of that action. Now I'd like to invite you to think of the most beautiful thing, the wisest, the kindest, the most compassionate moment you had in the last few days. That if you had mostly that in your experience of life, you would be filled with joy. Where was your kindness? Find your moment, your best moment of kindness, whether it be to yourself or others. Observe it with your teacher. And feel some joy, some happiness that you have that capacity and it's growing inside you with your actions. That you have done a beautiful thing and that it will grow. Imagine it expanding. Covering your entire experience. Just feel happy. So you ask your teacher, please, to always stay and teach you at every turn, regardless what emerges in front of you that you may find. the wisdom, to permanently prevent the hurts and to permanently create the wisdoms and the joy. And they agree and start to float up and turn to face the same direction you are until they are abiding just above the crown of your head, getting smaller and smaller and brighter and brighter. See if you can feel the essence of their presence there, just above your crown. And with them there, I'd like you to begin to bring your awareness to that thing that is your awareness. See if you can identify what you identify as your mind. How do you identify consciousness? Where is the experience of that? If you had to use your 5 senses, can you find it? Can you touch your mind? Can you squeeze it? Can you stretch it? Can you feel it? With your tactile senses, can you see it? Can you brighten it? Can you darken it? Where's your consciousness? Can you taste it? Can you smell it? Can you hear it? Where is your consciousness? What is your mind? I'd like you to challenge the notion that we grow up in the West, that the mind somehow resides inside the brain. Where do you feel? How far can your mind reach? If it's now looking at the planet from outer space, if it's now seated in this room, how does consciousness experience? What kind of stuff is it? Slowly, I'd like you to bring your awareness to your heart, to your chest, the sensation there just in front of your backbone. the level of the heart. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Who said that? Who did that? That's a little inappropriate in class. Who did that? I asked them to go meow, so I'll remember. Thank you. Did you do it?
Left me hanging.
Wow.
You forgot.
It's okay to be a little weird. Meow. I live in a place called the Opera House Lofts, and it's in Bushwick. And besides having a ton of feral hippies and hipsters, we also seem to attract feral cats. So there is this one cat who was a little scared of everybody that's arrived maybe 2 months ago, and he or she is beautiful, just grey, fluffy hair, very docile and kind. So we took him to the vet to get the chop. Yeah. And the vet told us that he's got leukemia, cat leukemia. I don't know anything about cat leukemia, but it's just, I mean, he looks like a normal cat. But the doctor says we can put them down now, or we could wait a little while and find them a place where they can eat nice and be taken care of and whatever. So he's quite happy at the Opera House Lofts at the moment because it's summer. He hangs around and looks at the birds and talks to the feral hipsters. But come spring or winter, you might need a home. So I'm inviting any of you who don't have another cat, yeah, who could take care of him. That would be very nice. And it's a nice little project. If you don't know, if you can't, then you may know something. But he's lovely. And I'll probably. Thanks for the meow. Yeah, that's the point of the meow. I would have forgotten to remind you of meow. So if you like cats and you want to save life, then, or at least treat it nicely before it passes, that would be a really good idea.
No, I'm allergic, but can I deal with him in the house? Like,
Oh, for the winter? I think so. Yeah, I don't see why not. That'd be nice. We're feeding him all the time. Yeah. So it's got a place.
How long does a leukemia cat lives?
Could be a year.
An outdoor cat only can live about a year or two. Their survival rate on the streets 2 years.
Survival rate on the streets 2 years, so
Or less.
indoor cat more, right?
Yeah, indoor cat. I had a cat that lived 22.
22 years. Yeah. I don't know enough about it. That's all I've got to share. Yeah. So thank you. Okay, I'm gonna only review if we got time at the end. Okay, because we're gonna do a review class soon. Who didn't do the quiz? Do you want to do the quiz now? Let's do the quiz. Let's do the quiz.
there's more quizzes here.
Yeah, just do a quick quiz. What's the first question on the quiz? We can do it together.
Explain the meaning of the material cost.
What's material course? Near Lengi
Year.
Q. Right? What does it mean? Let's do it together. What's the material course?
Stuff that flops.
Stuff that flops into The main stuff that flops into
Right, the main stuff that flops
into something else,
What
but
again?
necessarily disappears, right?
Right.
The seed disappears when the tree appears.
Thing without that.
So it's like the seed.
Without that,
Nothing.
you can have all the other kien, right? All the other conditions, like water, earth, etc. But you remove that one, that much. Sorry, unlucky. Yeah. Whereas you could, if you had that and you had a scarcity of some of the conditions, you would still have. I mean, it's a beautiful idea, right? Like science has that to a degree when we're chemists are working on stuff. Yeah, for the material world. So the idea here is that everything must have a near-linking cube and some kien. And we started looking for. Sorry, now I'm reviewing. What's the second question? So the some of the qualities of a near-linking cube is that it's similar stuff, right? Similar stuff produces similar stuff. So if it's hard, and so on and so on. That without it, it won't occur. And if you had kien or the compositional factors. What's another quality of a near-linking cube? Anything else?
Results and similar to
Similar course of the result. Yeah, you said that. Without it, it won't do it. And I guess another quality is that it must be there before the result. Yeah. Otherwise, it's not a course. Yeah. But it's serious. Like, you know, that's an important thing. Because I'm going to talk about that today. Okay, what's the next question on the quiz?
Why can't the cause of your mind of birth be living in the physical matter?
Oh, okay. Why can't the mind
at birth be living physical matter?
And last week we learned this not from Dharmakirti's book Pramanavartika, yeah? We learned it from
That little stem tree.
the little tree that we got from Tsongkhapa's disciple named Kedrup J. Okay. So it wasn't Dharmakirti's talk. Last week we diverted over to Kedrup J's commentary to give us insight. Today I'm going to give you the comment that, you know, the book that we're studying is Dharmakirti's commentary on valid perception, but he's commenting on a previous book by the grandfather of Buddhist logic, Dignaga. Yeah, thank you. So Dignaga puts forward some arguments. Dharmakirti says, yes, that's true. Remember, he opens his book with these 4 lines, these five qualities of a Buddha. Yeah, but the whole book is about pramana. It's about valid perception. Nobody wrote a book about past lives in all the Buddhist canon. Okay, nobody sat there and says, I'm going to write a book to explain to the stupid Westerners how to prove past lives. We've had to go find it in commentary after commentary. We found it in the Compendium of Valid Perception. We found it on the commentary to Pramanavartika. I can't remember how it's pronounced. Pramanavartika? I think it is. Yeah. Because we're talking about that there is such a thing as a valid perception. You can have a valid experience of life, and you can have so many of them. You could have all of them. You could have only them. That would be called a Buddha. Yeah, a being that has become that only speaks what they correctly perceive. Imagine if we did that. Yeah, I'd shut up. If we only spoke what we knew was truth, it'd be a very silent place. Yeah. So they're arguing, that there's such a thing as a valid perception, that you could have so many of them that you could become that, a being of only valid perceptions, and that kind of being called the Buddha, has had a direct experience of all reality, ultimate and relative. And the only way we could tell that is because they talked about the 4 real truths, and the first one we can verify, and we're guessing the other 3 are correct if they're a valid perception. So that's a little bit of a loopy reasoning, but I'm okay with that because I'm investigating a new philosophy. And then they bump into, I'm just giving you the review of the course so you know why we're talking about this now. So then they bump into some arguments going, well, what's the mother of all of Buddhahood? If you could reach such a thing as Buddhahood and omniscience, which then they bumped into some people who said you can't unless you're all powerful. Remember, you can't if you're not the creator of everything. And then some arguments back and forth said, no, you can. And then in Dharmakirti's 5 qualities of a Buddha, he said this causes that, causes that, causes that. Remember, he who became totally correct became totally correct because he was a teacher. Was that right? And protector. Thank you. Protector, and he was only a protector because he went to bliss. He only went to bliss because he was a teacher. He was only a teacher of emptiness because he had compassion. And so the seed syllable, the very beginning of becoming a valid everything, is you must have compassion. And now we bump into the Charvakas who say, bullshit. You can't possibly habituate a mind alive with so much compassion in one lifetime. You would require many lifetimes. And anybody can see that as soon as the body starts flopping around, the mind dies with the body. Duh. And when the baby comes out, it's animated, it begins its mind. So the body dies, the mind dies. You can't possibly have enough time to get so much compassion that you would then become a teacher, that you would then become, go to bliss, that you'd be impossible. So you can't have omniscience produced by someone. You have to be the creator of everything. You have to be, yeah? So that was the argument. And Dharmakirti goes, no. If you want to go that route, I'll prove to you that A, you can have life after life after life. And he proposes 10 arguments. I'll give you 6 today. But to preview that, I gave you Kedrib J's summary tree of absolutely everything. So we went looking for the near Lengi Q of the first moment of mind in this life. So if everything has a material cause, every changing thing has a material cause. Yeah, we grouped everything last week. We said absolutely everything exists. Yes. Let's divide everything into 2. Those things that change, those things that don't change. It's obviously not in the things that don't change, because that was the argument about an omnipotent God. Mind is changing, must be produced by something that changes. So just forget the whole branch of unchanging things, which is 2 things that I know of, emptiness and space. But the rest of it is changing. So it's in there somewhere. And that's got physical and mental, yeah? Sorry, that basically has physical and mental. And then we said, well, is it in the physical? Can a physical thing create a mental thing? And we said, no. And there were 2 types of physical, remember? It was the one pulse, yeah? The sense powers, yeah, the living tissue that is alive and electric and senses changes in stuff. They call them the cells at the back of the eye, yeah, which we call the optic nerve. But they said that thing isn't mind. It senses and it's like a plant, yeah. And then there was the other physical stuff, the rock and the material and all this stuff. So it could have been there, and we didn't find it in there, so we went into mind. So it was in there somewhere. Then we went, was it in your mum's mind, or was it in your dad's mind? Can you pick it off some other mind? And we said, probably previous moment of the same mind. We'll talk a little bit about more of that today. And so he hears this logic that's taken centuries to go, oh, it's over here, and as we encounter opposing views, some of them are so similar to ours, to our prejudices. You know, like I'm still fighting my prejudices. Who says that what I was taught is the truth? You know, that opens up a can of worms and blah, blah, blah. But you have to take time to experience and think about, is there a different way of looking at my experience of mind and life? And I was thinking about it today. Why does it matter, really? Why don't you just get drunk? I mean, it's fun, right? Have lots of sex, get drunk, and eat pie.
Thinking about it, so cool.
Huh? I mean, they're fun, right? Hooray, party. Why don't do that? You know. And so I was thinking about it today. If we have inherited this state of being and this state of looking at the world and experiencing the world from previous habits, and things don't have a nature of their own, and things potentially could be absolutely anything, and they can be produced, caused. If we find the Nirlingi cure for complete bliss, and it takes lifetimes, then I feel a sense of responsibility for the next Hector who gets this stuff. Like I said earlier, he's going to get some bad habits. I'm trying to minimize them, right? And I got some bad ones. I'm like, oh, why do I have that impulse to respond in that particular way to a specific stimuli in my life? You know, me and some partners at work sit along each other. We've studied the same thing at university. We've all had reasonable lives. But something walks into that room and I have this negative response and they have a neutral and that one has an excited response. Where does that come from? Where do those habits come from? Is it only this life? You know, I don't know. I'm investigating. I'm erring on the side of not just this life after 17 years of study and practice. So this thing here is to give you a little jolt, a little break into what we think happens from the Western point of view, which is if I have to go back to what I used to think, even though I grew up in a Catholic world where baby Jesus did all these wonderful things and God was all powerful and he decided for me, although I still have those impulses, I don't truly believe that anymore. But if I had to go back, what I really believed, I think my religion was science at school. Came from nothing and I turned to nothing. When I'm finished, it's finished. You know, I really did think that, I think. And now after habituating something differently, I genuinely see proof, see evidence, experiential in meditation, in experiences with people, in other stuff, for the opposite, for a continuum. It's not just here, and this just helped me. Yeah? These have helped me. So that's what I got to share. Let's talk about the first line of Dharmakirti's 10 arguments. I'm not going to cover all of them. I only know them at a surface level, and they are just there to chip away at our previous prejudices. So see if you can listen to them like a new way of looking at the world. If your world looked like this, Dharmakirti says, Kewa Yongsu Lempa Na. That just means when a person takes birth. I don't know the breakup of that line. Yeah. So when a person takes birth, then he says Junggu. Yeah, and that means breath passing, like the in and out of your breath, the breathing, that impulse to in and out. Wangpo. Have you had Wangpo before? What are they? Huh? Wangpo. The Geshe Wangpo, it's not that. I love you. Excellent, the 5 sense powers, yeah? So the 5 sense powers are the eye, sense power, the ear, sense power, etc. So this living tissue, this thing that's electrified, if you like, or has life in it, but isn't consciousness, isn't mind. Okay? That informs the mind. When it gets in contact with a sense object. So you have sense object in contact with the sense power, produces a mental consciousness, a sense consciousness, a consciousness of taste. Yeah? A sense object connects with a sense power, yeah, produces a visual consciousness, a mind interpreting the thing. It grows the mind, it pushes the mind. This is the idea. Yeah? A sense object connecting to a sense power produces really sick. No. You get it? Yeah, so that's how those things interact. So one point is the sense powers. And say Lodakni, the mind. So when a person takes birth, breath passing, sense powers the mind. That's the beginning of his lines. But what he's saying is, when a child is born, when a creature appears on the planet, yeah, take the life in it, take the breathing in and out, that impulse, yeah, and the sense powers, the fact that it can sense, and the mind. So those three things, this will be the basis to all these arguments. Where do they come from? He'll say, where do they come from, right?
What of the powers?
All of them. So he says, take a child or a creature that's birthed, yeah, as soon as they're born, they have breath in them, they have this life in them, the cells have life in them, the breathing, yeah, they have this impulse, and they have these sense powers, they have the power of sight and sound and taste, etc., and they have a mind, right? He'll ask, where do they come from? The way that he describes the sense powers, the breathing and the sense powers, is the living tissue, right? The stuff that senses. That it's already well developed, as if it's habituated to sense that stuff. It's like prepared for that. And he says the same about the mind, by implication, from the crying and the distress that's experienced from this birth, right? It's like the mind is already knowing how to experience this experience of birth, as if it was habituated. Yeah, he'll say, just take them, take this.
What is the base?
Huh?
What is the base?
Just watching a child scream when it comes out, and he says, take that experience. It looks like it comes from something. Yeah, like why doesn't it go pa 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 pa? Yeah. Why do they go ah? Why does it seem that the mind is disturbed at this experience, or anxious, or something?
Because Eve ate the apple.
Huh?
Because Eve ate the apple.
That's absolutely, I forgot. Yeah, he didn't read that part. Yeah.
But does he believe that the mind starts once birth comes?
No, he's arguing this. Remember, he's having a discussion with someone. And so they're saying, no, there's no such thing. He goes, no, take this guy, right? Imagine the baby first popped out. Of course, we believe, and so did they, that life happened before birth. But it's like your argument is that when the body stops flopping, or when it comes out, life starts, right? Well, let's take that life. He'll go, let's use your super point of view, and let's take that life. Yeah, it's already breathing, it's already sensing, and its mind is already active, as if it knows how to react to this world. It's not like lost. It's like it knows it's crying because it's anxious. That came from something. Yeah, and he'll now give 10 arguments. Some of them really silly, which I like, and some of them fairly deep. And you can, for me, none of them really hit home, until years later, and not one of them by themselves was strong enough for me to have certainty that they were a good argument. But collectively, they did something to me, and I hope to share that with you. Okay? So he'll do that. Now, He's saying, look at those things, and what things had to come together, disappear, and flop into that thing. The life and living tissue and the mind. Yeah, because that's a thinking of the time. What's the near-lengi cure for that? What things necessarily came in, and you can group the breathing and the sense powers into life. Yeah, a life force, or life, let's call it life. And then you can flop mind into mind. You can divide those two. So he says, what are the things that had to come together, disappear, and turn into mind, for example. And here comes argument number 1, which is Rangi. Yeah, Rangi Ki. Rangi Rik. La Tu Mechen. Okay, he says, and I don't know if you were, I guess we'll do this on course 13 when we do, is it 13 or 18?
Yes, the 13 is the tough one.
It's a tough one, right? When we do, I'm not doing that one just yet. But when we do Buddhist logic, which, we'll use a lot of the bases that we've covered here as the very tiny bases, we'll get to do debating and a whole bunch. You'll see that the way that you place an argument, and I think I covered it in the last class a little bit, is like you make a statement, say, take this, it's this because of that, right? So we'll summarize his 10 arguments into that. So he'll say proof number 1. So that's proof number 1. Say, he says basically take those 3. Which 3? Breathing, sense powers, and mind. But in my mind, he's really talking about 2 things. The physical living cells and the impulse to breathe and the thing to sense, which are physical stuff. Remember out of the tree that Kempe did? And then mind, the second stuff, consciousness, the thing we try to find in meditation just then. He goes, takes those 3. They did not come from something not similar. They did not come from something not similar, meaning, thank you. And the reason he's doing that, I think, is because he's arguing with someone saying, that didn't come from that. He goes, no, they did not come from something similar. Yeah, I think that's why he did the double negative, plus there's other reasons. Because the baby has them now, and it must be from something similar or some substance that's similar to it. So you see the baby having it now. They didn't come from something dissimilar. They must have come from something similar, because I can see it. The baby's got this impulse for life. The cells have this kicking in them. Yeah? And the mind has a response to experience already. Crying and distress, and it's physically showing that the consciousness of that thing is experiencing distress. So you can assume that the mind is distressed because it's experiencing distress.
So what about the babies that don't cry right away?
That's a good point, but he's not using that as an example. Yeah. But in essence, what he's saying is, for this argument, he's basically saying, you can't say that this life just came from chemicals only, putting a whole bunch of chemicals together, and it formed a mind. That's basically what he's saying in that first argument. Let's go to the second argument, yeah? Which is, I think it's Luni Bashik Lekiel. Sorry. He's saying, take those 3, which are mind. Excellent. They did not come from the 4 elements.
But that's the second argument?
Yeah. They did not come from the 4 elements. We talked about the 4 elements last time. I'll talk about it in a second. because they came from something similar, earlier of a similar type. Right? So they must have come from something earlier of a similar type. So you can't say they came from the 4 elements only. He does not say that the 4 elements are not a kien or a contributing factor. Yeah? He's saying that it's not the Nirlengikyu, not the
Material cost.
material cause. So, what do you remember me talking about the 4 elements last week? What can you remember? What are the 4 elements? Earth, water, fire, and air. Earth, water, fire, and air. Yeah. Does it mean that I have a tiny little dirt particle? Does it? Yeah. Little piece of dirt. Yeah. Does it mean I have a little fire burning in there? Is that what they believed? No. They believe that the subtle energy that produces all physical matter, the subtle energy that produces all physical matter, must have these 4, what do you call them? Stimuli, constituents, or something to sustain them are these 4 elements. That even particles, they say in the Abhidharma Kosha, even particles have these 4 in them. A particular balance of the 4. So even an atom or an electron would have everything, inanimate or inanimate objects, any physical stuff, that one branch of the tree that was just physical stuff, must have these 4 elements in them to some degree, a mix of this and that and the other, and that was a common understood. I mean, eventually this will be the elements table, you know. If you enough of this and enough of that, we did our, what's our chemical table in science? Periodic table. Yeah. If we got this philosophy and started slicing earth, water, fire, and air, we would have our own chemical breakdown according to that to understand our physical world. So let me talk a little bit about earth quality, which say Sashing Tepa. That's for those of you that want to know. And look, every single class has this in it, has a tiny insight into a topic that could take you a lifetime. You know, and frankly, after I was studying this with Geshe Michael at the beginning, I got sick of it. Because I'm like, my head's going to explode. I now want to go and spend 3 years studying the essence of the chemical world in the Abhidharma Kosha and every commentary, because that would give me some insight. And then next class you'd forgotten all about this and we're off to something else, and it really gave me the shits. Like, it was really upsetting to me. And if you had 20 years and you didn't want to work and you could sit in a monastery, go ahead and do it. I didn't have that luxury, you know. And frankly, I needed to be integrated into society as well, because if this was ultimate knowledge that described an ultimate experience, it must be applicable to my relative experience. If you covered everything, this stuff must be meaningful and applicable in my job, with my partner, with my relationships, with my family, with my hurts, with my money making, with my car, with my death, with my sickness, with my health. It must be applicable to everything, not locked away in some monastery. So then, double job. Live a pretend normal life, internally try and internalize as much of this as possible. And what it meant for me, and I don't know what this means for you, is that as tasty as this seems to me, because I really would like to spend a year on the elements, you know, the 4 elements, because it's a beautiful way of looking at this whole physical experience. I won't have a chance to, but you're welcome to whatever it is that interests you. You can go ahead and look at the Wheel of Life and Dependent Origination for 3-5 years. The whole study of karma for 5-6 years. You know, you could, perhaps, wisdom you can study for 10 years. Any of these insights can be a lifetime. So then I got it, you know, he's just sprinkling for me crumbs on the path. And I didn't get depth on every single one, but I was moved as quickly as I could. It took me a long time to actually begin to have an internal experience of this power, thanks to this tiny insight. So let me share with you a little bit about the elements. So Earth, which is Sachin Tepa, is the energy creating the hardness in our world. Anything that's got any hardness or solidity. And it's got two qualities. These are the functions of this, and that's how it's described, and it's solid and rigid. Yeah? So this thing, this energy, the subtle energy behind something that makes something stand up and stay rigid. That's what earth element means. So Chu or Chu Leng Xing Sherwa, that's water. Yeah? And the subtle energy behind that is a thing that makes things moist or wet and flowing. And then you could see how just water and earth together could produce a whole bunch of physical stuff. These subtle energies behind that. And Metsa Shing Sekpa, or just Me, is fire. And it has the quality of hot and burning. And air is Lung. Who gets Lung in meditation? That's wind, right? Air. Yang Xing Jowa is the long way. And that's light, like not heavy, like fluff, light. Yeah? And flow and moving. Light and moving. This ability to oscillate. So, yeah? It's lovely, right? So to think of the world this way, and any smallest particle that way, and every larger system this way, you could see how it could produce every kind of substance, physical matter. Okay? So what Dharmakirti is saying, it couldn't have come from mind, could not have come from any combination of these four elements. So he says, take those three, they did not come from the elements alone, yeah, the elements alone. It could have been a contributing factor because it comes from something earlier and of a similar type, like any Nirlangikyo. Yeah? So it's something earlier and of a similar type. In essence, he's saying, imagine that you could grab just the elements, this much earth element, fire, the energy behind whatever cellular stuff there is. You put it on a plate, pour in water, go group, and you'd have a mind. He's saying that doesn't happen. You know, you can't just grab them over there and put them there. They need something else. The Neo-Lingikyo is not that. There could be a contributing factor, but it's not that. It's not the four elements. The next argument, is 56. 57. Sorry, let me just make sure I've covered everything on the elements. The other thing here is that's talking about physicality, right? That if the four elements were present and they produced consciousness and mind, they must disappear and flop over into consciousness, but they don't. The physical stuff, he's getting to it now, the physical stuff produces physical stuff. So the sperm and the egg and the cells divide and break and divide and disappear into bigger cells, disappear into bigger cells, disappear into bigger cells. You could say that for the elements, but they didn't produce consciousness. They might have produced the impulse of life at some point where you get cell after cell after cell after cell, then having an impulse like whatever that first chord is, what do you call it? A nerve or something. And it turns on to have like a sense power. It can't turn into mind. It's not similar stuff. Yeah. Turn into mind. The mind. And that's why I wanted you to spend some time thinking about what is mind. You know, if you really think about consciousness and mind, can you grab it with any of your five senses? Can you touch it? Can you stretch it? Can you squeeze it? Can you cut it in half? Is there any physicality that's similar to the quality of mind? If it's similar in quality, where is the similarity between physical stuff, the elements that you can touch and poke and stretch and squish and blow up? You can't do that to mind. And when I first heard Geshe Michael describe mind this way, that your mind, he goes, close your eyes and your mind is now in your fridge at home. Honestly, the first time I heard that, and the second and third, I thought that you're just playing games with me. That's retarded. That's just silly or poetic or something. But the more you spend time thinking about it, it's not poetic. Your mind is as much here, right now, as it can be this instance in your bathroom at home. But we are so overwhelmed by the six senses, by the visible stuff around us, that we think this is our mind, the limit of what we can see. It's not. That's just a sense object connecting with a sense power in this philosophy, creating an experience. That experience, where is it? It's not in your eyeball. And then I got it. Mind, remove all those six senses. Which is, the first time I started to learn to meditate, they said, remove all those senses. You should have mind, the thing interpreting everything. And then it was Punso, Venerable Punso, in 1994 or something. He said, it's a little slippery. He won't like to be caught. And my God, it was crazy. It was like King Kong on steroids, wanting to get out of that exercise. It's like, no, I exist, really I do, but give me something to look at and smell and taste, and ouch, your back hurts, and it was like King Kong in my consciousness going, let me out of here. Mind, your ability to jump across the other side of the planet right now and experience the sensation of being there is not your eye consciousness or your smell consciousness or your ear consciousness. We have that bombarding our mind 24/7, and we think that's mind. But the thing interpreting those six things, those five things, what is that?
Is there anything written about the quality of knowledge that is not through the senses? I'm following what you're saying. I'm thinking, okay, you'd be on the other side of the planet and sensing and experiencing the sensations of being there, and which makes me wonder about the difference between sensing from
Being here.
being here.
Yeah. Well, all I can tell you is that I can't remember the chapter of the Abhidharma Kosha, there is a description of what life is and consciousness is, and in fact there's lots of descriptions in there. And the description that mind is aware and knowing. I can't think of a place to go and send you to, but the point is for you to experience, for you to question. I'm not asking you to believe anything. I'm asking you to just question what you already believe, if you were given a different point of view. And then have the freedom to investigate and question and know that there are some insights in other places here.
I was just remembering one of the definitions of right perception, which is not recalling, right?
Yep.
So that in itself just contradicts what you just
That's
said.
lovely. Thank you. That's lovely. Doesn't contradict, because when I was imagining Siberia, I had never been there. That's good. Go on.
I mean, I love the idea that the mind could be in my toilet here right
In your
now.
where?
In my toilet here right now, right? And it's unlimited and it's not, limited by physical space, but as much as I think of it, like my toilet, I mean, in a normal way, is I'm recalling
You're recalling
my
toilet.
toilet.
Change
right?
it. Make it pink. Make it pink now. Don't make it pink.
Okay.
Are you recalling pink and putting it on top of it and creating something new? Where's your mind as it's doing that? Where's your consciousness? You know what I mean? We are so habituated to think that it's sitting in the brain, number one. I feel that. I feel like I've been forced to believe that this experience is sitting in the brain. And that's fact and truth.
As opposed to like your hand, or
As opposed to your hand, or as opposed to everywhere. But when you just look at the six sense powers, let's talk about the sense power of tact, of feeling, right? We think we extend to the edges of our skin. And in the Abhidharma culture they say, except the edges of your fingernail where you don't really feel anything, or the tip of your hair where it's not tactile. Right? So that we have a limit to the physicality of the sense power of sensation. The ear extends how far? What can you hear? Is it in there? Is it here? Is it limited to this shell? Where is it? Where's sound?
Everywhere, right?
Is it? What about sight?
Yeah.
How far does it extend?
the receivers reside.
The receivers reside in your body.
Your
Okay,
eardrums.
the eardrum. Correct.
Receivers.
Yeah, is that you? That's your sense powers, right? Sense powers connect with a sense object over here. Hello, the visual one and the audio one. Yeah, and then the mind gets stimulated, turns on to grow an experience. Yeah. But where is the mind?
Does reside in your body because
Does
the
it?
body does the mind.
That's exactly what the Charvakas are saying, and he's saying no. He's saying it doesn't. It resides somewhere around the body, but at what edge? Where does it stop? If you close your eyes and you imagine someone close behind you, or you send someone to where is that sensed? Who senses that? And then you ask all the experiences you have in dreams, and where is that? Where did your mind go? And people having out of body experience, what are they not? Are they not valid
How does
experiences?
the mind get so intricately connected with
To
the
a
sense?
thing, this vehicle, but this is another class, this is a whole nother subject, right? But this vehicle, this thing that allows the experience of life and living in consciousness, we confuse for consciousness. That's what the Charvakas are saying. If I bash the head enough, it stops flopping around. Therefore, correctly perceived, it has no more awareness. That's what the Charvakas are saying. We say that. We say, you bash the head enough, they get a bit dumb, they get paralyzed. Yet my mum had a stroke, she got half paralyzed. She did not lose half her mind. I know she didn't. On the contrary, her mind got bigger, got faster, sharper, wanting more life, wishing for better experience. Her awareness didn't get cut in half, but the brain had no supply of blood to certain parts of it, which didn't allow sensation in parts of her body, but her mind didn't get halved.
Or like Alzheimer's.
Or Alzheimer's. They're having an experience. What? That's not an experience. They're not having an awareness.
So, what is, I don't even know how to ask this question, so I'll start.
I bet you I won't even know how to answer it, but I'm going to try.
Okay.
No.
So, in the fetal stage, right, when you're one cell, when you're an egg and a sperm, then you're a couple cells, and you're a couple more cells, and a couple more cells. This is, my understanding, a result of karma. Like, this is, at what, so is it already kind of, whose karma is that at that point? And at what point does this mind it connected to a being, and if it is already connected to the being at that point, what is the quality of that mind? Is it the same?
Beautiful, yeah. It's lovely. No, it's a good question. Because you just, see, we come with a Western prejudice to an Eastern suggestion. And you just added a sprinkle of Eastern suggestion to the Western prejudice, which is karma. Okay, that's fine. Whose karma is it to experience a being growing in your time? Whoever's experiencing. What's karma? What's the definition of karma?
Movement of mind.
A moment of mind. Yeah, a movement of the mind. Karma is movement of the mind. Where is that explained?
Where is it?
Where is that definition? Say that again.
The first two lines.
The first two lines of the fourth chapter of the Abhidharma Kosha. I love you. Yeah? Thank you. That's awesome. We should send Geshe Michael a video. Please, can we do that? Because I want him to feel joy that people in the class pretend you've not rehearsed this.
You just happen to have your phone
On and pointing.
As you're teaching.
So, whose karma is it that the AC died?
Did it die?
It didn't.
No,
It's
just
sleeping.
the balance of the
Okay, is it that cold in
Where
here?
is perceiving it?
So,
It's your
karma is the movement of the mind. Okay? So let's take the mother's point of view. Okay? She doesn't know this 2 cells turn into 4, turn into 8. Yet. But at some point, her karma, her mind shifted, her karma shifted, and she began to allow the flowering of a karma that is producing life in her. Yeah? Then she tells Dad, and he gets a karma turned on. Yeah? So they're separate things, they share a karma. Yeah? And at some point, those 2 cells divide to 4, divide to 3, have a consciousness. They are self-aware. They have it, but it's rudimentary. It's not. I'm imagining it's rudimentary. I don't know really. I'm imagining it's at some point, according to Buddhist thought, as soon as the egg and sperm meet, there is mind. Yeah, they say. As soon as that is, then mind is there.
But wasn't
Yeah.
there mind before? That's the question.
Correct. This is the point. This is what we did. We said that there was mind before, of that same continuum, and it does this ebb and flow of cycles of experience in the wheel of life, dependent on origination. It says, it like a tree, it turns on, something turns on, the Nirlangikya turns on of consciousness. If we're going to get to the end of the arguments, we may as well do it now. That something turns on, which is mental, is not physical. A previous moment of mind produced that first moment of mind at some point in that womb, at some point in those cells, connected to those cells, like we think we're connected to this thing. And in the West, we think the mind is dependent on the body. We're all assuming that in the way we're asking the question.
But so the mind is dependent on you?
Right? And in fact, they're saying it's the other way around. You'll get this next class. That the body is dependent on the mind. That karma produces the body in the way that you're experiencing it. And so to answer your question, at some point, I can't tell you it's the first millisecond, 35 milliseconds, whatever. I can't tell you whether it's 12 cells, when the first nerve occurs. At some point, that thing has a conscious sensation, and it might be tactile. Out of the 5 sense powers, it might be tactile. I'm not sure if it's audible because it hasn't developed the eardrum yet. I'm not sure if it's taste. I don't know. But at some point, according to them, it becomes aware. But not self-aware like we think I am sitting on a cushion. It has a sensation of warmth or movement or coolness or jolting or of movement or something. And that first instance, that first movement of mind, that first karma, the argument is, could only have come from a previous moment of mind, a previous consciousness of the same time, same time.
So I think the question was more about mind stream than karma now, I'm understanding. Because we understand, correct me if I'm wrong, Buddha is not connected to a physical body, but is
Buddha is not connected to a physical.
is not constrained by a physical body. That this once it turned into I don't know.
Where does Buddha abide?
In all of us.
Hmm? In all of us. No, well, that means that in all of us. Can Buddha send an email?
Yeah.
Yes.
With or without attachments? I'm joking. We talked about the 4 bodies of a Buddha or 3 bodies of a Buddha in the previous one. Can I divert this whole thing,
please.
finish the arguments? But actually, why don't we have a 10-minute break, come back, I'll finish the arguments, we'll get to a review. And I like this line of question. All I want you to do is to do that, is to go in and go, well, hold on, that engaging your mind onto this topic is the point of this thing. It's not to prove to you that I'm right. It's not to prove to you that what I learned is correct. I can't do that.
Unfortunately, it's proving that I don't remember the readings.
No. You're doing really well. You're doing really, really well in asking these questions. If they're true questions, if they're not just heady questions, if they're not, oh, if he said that, he did that, that's intellectualizing an experience. I'd love you to be able to say, hold on, that means my consciousness. At some point, this identity that I connected only to the limit of my skin had its first experience of consciousness. It wasn't the same skin, it was infinitely smaller. But I know that produced this mind and that produced that mind. Where are they connected? Where did the whole stream of hectoring occur? Seriously, like I think I'm an identity, I think I'm a thing. And I definitely think I'm this. I'm forced to think that. But every investigation into it tells me I can't be just this. That yes, this is a vehicle for an experience I'm having. And then when you go and search for the consciousness that is here, the thing that interprets all those senses, the King Kong that got uncomfortable when I shut down the door of sound, shut down the door of movement, shut down the door of sight. So the monkey was quite happy just looking out there and going, oh, I'm watching things, oh, I'm listening to things, oh, I'm tasting things, I'm imagining things. And then I'm like, shut for the first time, shut for the first time, shut for the first time. Little monkey turned into King Kong and said, not possible, I'm not going to be found, go away, smash, smash, open the eye. That proved to me that A, I'm not in control. That I think I'm in control, most of the time I'm not in control. Some other bastard in there thinks that they're in control. And I thought it was me, not possible. B, that there is something separate to eyes and ears and nose and tongue and mouth. The thing that tastes and smells and tastes and touches. There's something separate, they're interpreting it all. And when it doesn't have something to interpret because it's so used to it, it gets a little upset. So what is that? Where did it start? When was the first thing? It's uncomfortable. But if you find it, if you tap into it, the inside is amazing. You maneuver your world differently, necessarily. So that's what we're searching for, that first moment of mind. I'm happy to get rid of the sense powers, the impulse of breath and life in this argument, and just focus on mind. But he's saying both of those things. Yeah, you have inanimate stuff, you have animate stuff, and then you have mind. So let's take a break. Actually, let's be back as soon as you can, since it's just the few of us. and I'll do arguments 3, 4, 5, and 6. That's all right. 4, 5, and 6 are really silly, and he starts getting them upset, which is part of the whole debating process. Yes. Enjoy.